Very warm welcome to St Peter Mancroft Church. I'm Edward Carter, the vicar here. Welcome to any of you here in the building, but also welcome to anyone joining us online for the live stream or perhaps watching it later on, catching up. This is one of our series of Wednesday reflections, which we have every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Something thoughtful, perhaps connecting to what's going on in the world, but also to questions of faith. And this week, as I speak to you now, it's in Christian Aid Week, which is at this time of year every year. And Christian Aid Week gives us a chance, of course, to consider donating to what is an amazing and wonderful charity, a charity which works in this country, but also around the world, and especially in parts of the world where people really do need help and support, and that support to help them be advocates for their own future. Christian Aid as a charity was founded at the end of the Second World War in 1945, a moment when there was much devastation, of course, still, but a tremendous sense of new beginning and hope. And it is the official relief and development agency of 41 different Christian churches. It's completely what's called ecumenical. All the different denominations are very much involved, standing alongside one another. And it has at the heart of its vision and mission a picture of being all about sustainable development. Not just sticking plaster development, not just trying to pour help in from above, as it were, but very much sustainable development and working with partners who are local around the world. That's really central to what Christian Aid does. And Christian Aid Week, as I say, always in mid-May, has run every year since 1957, so a good number of years. And it's often involved envelopes, of course, sometimes dropped around house by house, but increasingly now online as well, donations through the website and other events also. And every year, millions of pounds are given by very generous people to support the work of Christian Aid. Here at this church, St Peter Mancroft in Norwich, we had a lunch on the Sunday just gone at the start of Christian Aid Week. Very enjoyable bread and soup lunch with a film to watch as well, with information about Christian Aid. We have a collection bucket here in the church. There are envelopes which can be used, and I know many people are doing that. In fact, the days of doorstep deliveries of envelopes and then doorstep collection of money are kind of fading a bit now, when people have such different ways of being able to donate to charities. But certainly if you look back over the last 10 or 20 years, most years I would go out collecting on the doorstep in the parishes where I was ministering. I've certainly got one or two slightly crazy and fun memories of those trips around hundreds of houses. On one occasion I arrived at the doorstep and someone answered briskly and thrust a £10 note straight towards me. But they thought I was the pizza delivery person. So as soon as they discovered I hadn't come bringing their pizza but actually asking for a donation, they quickly retracted their £10 to make sure they had it ready for the pizza. Another even more crazy moment, which I hesitate to mention really, I arrived at a very noisy house full of people. It turned out it was a big party. It was a sort of hen night, I think, before someone was getting married. And I was wearing my vicar's clothes, of course, and they thought for a second that I was the strippogram that had been ordered specially for that moment. I quickly told them that really that wasn't me. They should wait patiently for someone else. But actually they were all very generous in that house. And indeed that's often the case. People are extremely generous towards Christian Aid. However, if you think about it, even something like the £15 million that's given every year, even that amount is really quite small in terms of the international development needs and the budgets that governments have. For example, the UK government spend on international development in 2022 was £7.5 billion, which is massively bigger than the Christian Aid Week donations. And I suppose that raises a question really in my mind, maybe in yours as well. Is something like Christian Aid Week really needed? Surely we should rely on the governments of the world and that collective working together on that kind of level. But I think although the amount raised by Christian Aid Week, an impressive amount of course, although it actually is quite small in global terms, nonetheless there's something really important about the work of Christian Aid and Christian Aid Week. Because Christian Aid Week reminds us what it feels like to be generous. It gives us a chance to practice our own generosity, our own donations to a really good charity. And Christian Aid Week is a collective endeavour. It's something we do together, supporting a charity. But it is also something that calls upon our own individual generosity. So it's a together thing and a personal response. It's not a kind of enforced thing. It's not like the taxes we pay. It's an act of generosity that we can make if we wish to. And the great charities of our nation, including Christian Aid, but there are others as well, those great charities are so important within the fabric of our community life, because they kind of embody, in a very important way, our solidarity with our fellow human beings around the world, most of whom we'll never meet, never really know, but nonetheless they are one with us in that sense of sharing our basic humanity. So yes, the charities that we support embody our solidarity with others in that big picture sense. But they also keep, I believe, that real sense of the personal love of neighbour that we're called upon within the message of the Christian faith. Love God and love your neighbour as yourself. That was the great commandment given to us by Jesus himself. And so supporting a charity like this week for Christian Aid Week, like Christian Aid, is such an important thing because, as I say, it reminds us of that call to love our neighbour, and it reminds us of our common life together in that big picture way as well. So thank you for considering your support for Christian Aid in this Christian Aid Week. It's the 66th Christian Aid Week that's run, having been begun all those years ago. Certainly I've mentioned about some opportunities here at St Peter Mancroft Church in Norwich. There will be opportunities in every other church up and down the land, and indeed in other places as well. Thank you for being open to the chance to practice your own generosity of heart put into action. Because after all, as Christians, we believe that God is generous to us in so many ways, and we are responding to what he has done for us first. Thank you for being part of something bigger than just us as individuals, but thank you also for wanting to express that individual love of neighbour as well. And thank you for listening to these few thoughts from me as well, from Norwich. I suppose my final thought is just to say, may our generous God bless us richly so that we too express our lives in like generosity. Thank you again, and do join us for our future Wednesday reflections as well. Thank you.